My name is Lila Monroe. At least, that's what's left of it. Before everything happened, people used to say I was the kind of woman you could trust your secrets with. The reliable one. The one who always brought snacks to the meeting. The one who remembered birthdays. The one who stayed late at work but never complained. Camille used to say I was her rock, her anchor. She called me once. Turns out, she just needed something heavy to throw overboard when things got rough. Let me tell you how I went from having a stable job, a cozy apartment, and the kind of best friend every woman dreams of to sleeping in my car, questioning my own sanity, and watching her live my life like she stole it from a movie script. Because she didn't just betray me, she erased me. And the worst part, no one questioned it. No one questioned her. You want to know how I found out? It started with a locked door. 3 months ago, I came home after a long day at the design firm. Friday deadline, boss breathing down my neck, nothing out of the ordinary. I pulled up to my apartment like I always did, parking in my assigned spot. Only this time, my key didn't work. I thought it was the lock. Then I noticed something strange. The name on the buzzer? It didn't say L. Monroe. It said C. Rivers. I stared at it for a solid minute, thought maybe my landlord had just mislabeled something. But then a woman opened the door from the inside. Camille, holding my mug, wearing my cardigan, smiling like I was the stranger. She looked me up and down and said, "Can I help you?" Like she didn't know who I was. Like we hadn't been best friends since freshman year. Like she hadn't cried in my arms 6 weeks ago after her third breakup of the year. I laughed. I actually laughed out loud. "Very funny," I said. "You changed the buzzer to freak me out." But she didn't blink. Instead, she said, "I think you need help, Lila. Maybe you should talk to someone." And then she shut the door, right in my face. I thought it was a prank, a test, some twisted, dramatic joke she was playing to make a point about boundaries or whatever self-help book she was reading that week. But when I called our mutual friends, no answer. When I texted my boss, read at 9:40 p.m. no reply. When I checked my email, account deactivated. That's when it started to sink in. She didn't just take my apartment. She was taking my life, and nobody was stopping her. I went to the police the next morning. I told them she'd locked me out of my apartment, that she was impersonating me. They asked for my ID. I gave it to them. The officer scanned it, frowned and said, "There's a report connected to your name. A wellness check. 2 weeks ago." "What?" I said. He interrupted. "It says here you were reported as a danger to yourself and others. There's a flag on your record. Mental health watch." I felt like the floor cracked open beneath me. She hadn't just stolen my apartment. She'd laid the groundwork, filed fake reports, erased my credibility before I even knew I needed it. Do you have any idea what it feels like to scream for help while someone else wears your name like a costume? To watch people you've loved for years cross the street when they see you coming? To hear whispers that you've changed, that you're unstable, while the person who did it all smiles and thrives and gets promoted at the job you trained her to do? Because I do. And let me tell you, there's a reason I didn't fight back right away. You see, I wasn't just devastated. I was studying. I spent 2 weeks sleeping in my car. Camille posted a cute story about how good boundaries bring peace. She wore my necklace in it, the one my grandmother gave me. She used my design portfolio to land a new client. I know because the email signature was still mine. She didn't think I'd notice. She didn't think I had any fight left. But she was wrong. Because when you've got nothing left to lose, you become someone terrifying. You become patient. And patience is a brutal kind of power. I found an old laptop I hadn't used since grad school. No one thought to shut down that one. I got access to files, logs, emails. I started piecing together everything she'd done. And that's when I realized this wasn't impulsive. Camille didn't just slide into my life. She planned this. Months of digital manipulation, faking texts between us, logging into shared accounts and changing passwords quietly, creating a narrative that I was slipping, that I was paranoid. She was smart. I had to be smarter. I didn't go to the cops again. I didn't call friends. They'd already been poisoned. No, I went underground. I changed my name, rented a room under a false ID, started freelancing low profile, cash only. But every night, I documented, screenshotted, recorded, because I knew something Camille didn't. The truth always leaves a trail, even when you try to bury it, especially then. I won't tell you what I did next. Not yet. Just know this. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I didn't burn her world down in a blaze of fury. No, started slowly removing the air until she couldn't breathe in the life she stole. Because revenge, it isn't rage, it's design. And mine is just getting started. Have you ever been replaced, erased, or made to feel like you never existed? Tell me in the comments. Because maybe you're not crazy. Maybe they just made you feel that way. There's something eerie about watching someone else live your life and do it worse. After Camille took over my apartment, my job, and my name, I spent 2 weeks in hiding, not crying, not breaking down, observing. Because when someone hijacks your identity, the worst thing you can do is scream. They expect the meltdown, they count on it, so I gave her silence. But I wasn't gone. I was behind the scenes, and I was keeping score. The first thing I did was track down every trace of me she missed. People think wiping someone from existence is simple. It's not. It's messy, sloppy, especially when you're greedy. And Camille? She was greedy. She didn't want my life. She wanted a perfect version of it. She wanted my credibility, my reputation, my clients, my apartment, but without my boundaries, my ethics, or the years of work it took to build it all. So she left cracks, and I found them. First crack, an old Dropbox folder. Back when we were friends, we shared templates for our freelance work, logos, contracts, pitch decks. She used one of mine for a new client. How do I know? Because I left a trace. A 1-pixel signature, hidden in the corner of every design file I ever made. The client reached out to thank her for the presentation. I reached out to him anonymously and asked, "Did she send you the signed release form for this template?" Spoiler, she didn't. Now there was a record of copyright infringement. Strike one. Second crack, the design firm's internal database. She hadn't changed the backup system password. Why would she? She thought I was locked out of everything. But one night, I slipped in using my old laptop, still synced to our cloud, and I watched client calls, strategy notes, invoice logs. She was billing for projects I'd started, finishing them poorly, taking full credit. I downloaded everything, time-stamped it, organized it. I didn't send it anywhere, not yet. You don't slap a thief on the wrist while she's still filling her bag. You wait until she can't carry it anymore, then you call security. Third crack, Nathan, not a boyfriend, not quite a friend. Let's call him a complication. He worked in IT at the design firm. We had coffee once. Camille didn't know that. She also didn't know that Nathan always thought she was shady. So when I texted him from a new number and said, "Hey, I have a weird question. Do you remember Lila Monroe?" He replied in 30 seconds. "Do I remember you? What the hell happened? Everyone here thinks you had a breakdown." I told him everything, not all at once, piece by piece, and he listened. Not just because he believed me, because he'd seen things too. Turns out, Camille was smart but careless. She logged into accounts under my name from the same IP address she used for her own emails. She copied my portfolio but forgot to remove the metadata. She spoke in Zoom calls with clients who'd known me for years and couldn't replicate my tone, my thoroughness, my empathy. She seemed different lately, one of them told Nathan. Like someone wearing a Lila costume. I wrote that down. Because it was perfect. Camille wasn't me. She was playing me, and her performance was cracking. Meanwhile, I stayed quiet, invisible, just the way she wanted me. She didn't know I had access to her emails now. Thanks to Nathan, I was reading every desperate lie she sent to keep the illusion alive. When a client questioned a charge, she gaslit them. When a colleague raised an eyebrow, she faked being triggered. When someone asked about me, "Oh, she's not doing well. Please respect her space." She was building a fortress of guilt and shame around my name. I let her, because I was building something else, a timeline. I collected everything, false invoices, metadata from my stolen designs, emails to HR full of inconsistencies, screenshots of her claiming to be me, bank statements linked to her Venmo history, and then I created a dossier. Not for drama, for damage. Because I wasn't going to confront her. I was going to collapse her. I sent the file to 3 places. 1. The design firm's compliance officer. 2. Her biggest client under a burner email. 3. Myself, scheduled to auto-release if anything happened to me. Then I waited. And here's the thing about people who lie for a living. They're not scared of being accused. They're terrified of being questioned. Because when you peel back even one layer, everything falls. The first domino hit the floor on a Monday. Her client called the firm, said, "We need to talk about Camille. There's something off." 2 hours later, HR requested a meeting. That night, Nathan texted me, "Whatever you did, she's spiraling." I smiled, because the woman who stole my name, she forgot one thing. I built that name, and no matter how well you impersonate someone, you can't copy character. You can't download integrity. You can't fake real. But I wasn't done. Not yet. Because while Camille was busy trying to plug holes in her story, I had one more move to make. And this time, I was going to say my name out loud. Have you ever watched someone fall apart under the weight of the lies they used to destroy you? Let me know in the comments. Because sometimes revenge isn't fire, it's forensics. People always assume the first thing you need to reclaim is your name. But names are just labels, temporary, transferable. Camille wore mine like a thrift store coat, sloppy, forced, and one size too big. No, the first thing I had to reclaim was my voice. And I did it without speaking a single word. After the dominoes started falling at the design firm, I went back to work. Not there, somewhere new. A small studio that didn't ask many questions. Freelance, remote, clean slate. But behind the scenes, I kept pulling threads. Because Camille hadn't just stolen from me, she'd built a career on my shoulders. And I was tired of carrying her. Nathan kept me updated from the inside. "She's nervous," he texted one morning. She double booked a pitch call, told one client she had COVID and forgot the other one was in person. I smiled into my coffee. Camille had always been charming, but pressure exposes fraud. And charm is fragile. She started spiraling. I saw it in the email logs. Passive-aggressive subject lines, weird timestamps, 3am follow-ups, typos in client proposals. The girl who once corrected my grammar with a red pen was now forgetting how to spell collaboration. But I stayed silent, watching, waiting, because she still thought I was gone. Still thought the narrative held, that I was the unstable ex-friend, that she was the phoenix. But you can't rise from ashes you didn't earn. And she was about to suffocate in smoke she started herself. My next move wasn't revenge. It was extraction. There was one thing she hadn't touched yet. My name sure, my job taken, my apartment gone. But my past? That was untouched. And that was dangerous for her. Because Camille might have worn my present, but she didn't own my history. I started reaching out, not to friends, to anchors, former professors, old clients, people who remembered me not for who Camille said I was but who I had always been. I sent brief messages. "Hi, you might hear something about me that sounds off. If you ever want the full story, I'll tell you. But only if you ask. No drama, no blame, just presence." And that was enough. Within days, I got emails back. "I always thought that situation sounded strange. I remember how detailed you were. I never forgot that. Funny, she never knew how to navigate the portfolio like you did." Reclaiming your voice isn't about screaming. It's about reminding people they heard it before and they trusted it. Then came the podcast. Not mine. A mid-level design show I used to guest on years ago invited Camille for an interview. She said yes, and I watched it the minute it dropped. She looked good, poised, practiced. But 10 minutes in, she slipped. They asked about her design philosophy. She said, "I believe empathy starts with white space." My words. Exactly mine. She stole them straight from a lecture I gave 2 years ago, word for word. And I had proof. Video, time-stamped, uploaded. I didn't confront her. I just clipped both videos side by side. No commentary, no accusation. I sent them to the podcast host anonymously. Subject line, "Check your sources." The episode was taken down within 48 hours. No explanation, just silence. And for once, it was mine. You ever watch someone try to wear your skin and forget it doesn't fit? That's what she was doing. Trying on pieces of me. Wearing them like outfits she didn't earn. But people noticed. They always do eventually. Nathan told me she cried in the office bathroom last Friday. That she slammed a door and muttered something about being hunted. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then I remembered the night I slept in my car while she curled up in my bed, wearing my grandmother's necklace, calling me unstable in group chats I started. So no, I didn't feel sorry. I felt ready, because the next phase wasn't about watching her unravel. It was about making sure she couldn't fake being whole ever again. I scheduled a quiet meeting with one of her clients. A big one. They didn't know I existed. They thought she built every file from scratch. I sent them an email. "Hello. I'm not accusing anyone of anything. But if you'd like to see the original drafts of the last 3 campaigns, I can provide proof. I designed them. My name is Lila Monroe, and I'm done being invisible. They replied within hours, not with questions, with gratitude. Camille lost the account within a week. She blamed internal restructuring. I didn't respond, but I made one final move. I bought back my domain name. She'd let it expire. It used to be Lila Monroe Design. Now it's mine again. And when you type it in, you don't see her face. You see mine, not in anger, not in vengeance, but in quiet, absolute clarity. Have you ever reclaimed something that was stolen from you without even raising your voice? Tell me in the comments. Because sometimes the loudest scream is the one you never let them hear. People like Camille don't fear being hated. They fear being forgotten. Obscurity is their extinction. That's why she stole my identity, not just to live as me, but to erase any proof I existed first. But there's one problem with trying to disappear someone like me. I document. While Camille was scrambling to save face, I was rebuilding mine brick by brick. Not publicly, not yet, but intentionally. The first thing I did, I reclaimed my body. That might sound strange, I know. But when someone steals your name, your voice, your space, you start to feel like a ghost wearing skin. So I cut my hair, recolored it, reframed my face, not to hide but to meet the mirror on my terms. I got rid of the clothes she used to borrow. I threw away everything that reminded me of shared history. It wasn't healing, it was strategy. I needed a clean silhouette, because the next version of me was no longer an outline she could trace. Next, I rebuilt my network. Camille had burned my connections by impersonating me poorly. So I went back to the source, not to ask for sympathy, to show proof. One by one, I sent out a digital portfolio completely new. Same design voice, stronger execution, new name at the top, Lila Monroe. No disclaimers, no pity, just presence. And the responses? I thought you vanished. Wait, you designed this? I always wondered why it felt different. I'm so glad you're back. I didn't even say I'd been gone, because that narrative belonged to her. Then I launched something I'd been working on in secret, the Identity Project. A visual storytelling series, anonymous stories, real quotes from people whose identities had been manipulated, erased, or stolen. Not dramatic, not accusatory, just real. I released the first one on Instagram under a pseudonym. It got 4,000 shares in 24 hours. The second post hit 20,000. By the end of the week, a major online magazine reached out. We'd love to feature your voice. These stories are striking. What inspired this? I didn't reply immediately, because Camille used to say she wanted to start something impactful. She never did. She was too busy performing impact while I was busy living through the kind of pain you can't fabricate. Here's the thing about relevance. You don't chase it, you build it. And slowly, my name began to stick to things again. Projects, forums, referrals, credits. Meanwhile, Camille was chasing dust. Nathan sent me screenshots from a group chat Camille tried to join. Someone replied, "Isn't she the girl who copied everything from that designer last year?" No one even said my name. They just remembered my absence, and hers in comparison. That was the shift. She was no longer the one who replaced me. She was the one who tried. I released one more piece in the Identity Project, a graphic called, "Who Were You Before They Took Your Voice?" The caption read, "Some people silence you slowly by wearing your name until you forget how it sounded." I didn't scream to get it back. I rebuilt it one boundary at a time. That post, it trended. Camille didn't. The next week, I found a tweet she posted. Crazy how people can make careers out of playing victim. No names, but the timing was clear. It got 3 likes. I didn't reply, because here's the truth. If someone talks in a room you've already left, it doesn't make a sound. My final step was quiet. I updated my professional bio everywhere. Lila Monroe, visual designer, strategist, story builder, specializes in identity systems for people who refuse to be reduced. No drama, no all caps announcements, just definition. Mine. Have you ever been mistaken for replaceable and then rebuilt yourself so well that even your shadow didn't recognize you? Tell me in the comments, because real identity isn't something they can take from you. It's something they can't even see coming until it's too late. Camille always thought attention was a prize. That being seen equaled being validated. She didn't realize some lights are surgical. They don't flatter, they expose. And I wasn't just going to expose her. I was going to let her crumble in the brightness she begged for. It started with an email. A small design conference in Chicago wanted me on a panel about personal brand ethics. They had read The Identity Project. The irony? They first reached out to Camille. She ghosted them. So they came to me. And I said yes, not out of spite, out of precision. Because if Camille had left one thing completely unguarded, it was the myth that I was too broken to speak for myself. She made sure I lost my voice. So now, I would make sure she heard it even if I never said her name. The promo for the event dropped a week later. They listed me clearly: Lila Monroe, visual strategist, identity recovery advocate, founder of the Identity Project. No aliases, no obscurity, just presence. It was the first time in almost a year I saw my name on something public without fear. And the first thing Camille did? She posted a vague quote on her story. Reinvention is easy when your audience never knew the real you. No tags, no names. But it dripped with desperation. And it flopped. Even her own followers didn't take the bait. Is this about Lila? Girl, don't start. A little self-awareness goes a long way. She deleted it within the hour. I didn't react. I prepared. I wrote out everything I wanted to say on that panel, then cut half of it. Because I realized I didn't need to explain what happened. I only needed to show what survived. The panel itself was quiet, minimalist. 3 chairs, 1 mic. I wore black again, clean, simple. No makeup beyond a soft line of eyeliner, just enough to say, I'm not hiding anymore. When it was my turn, I didn't start with trauma. I started with clarity. I said, we don't talk enough about the difference between reinvention and replacement. One is healing, the other is theft. The room went still. You could feel the air shift. I didn't flinch. I told them about the way a person can slowly swap out your life, piece by piece, until you're left holding a history that no one believes you lived. And how the only way back isn't screaming, it's remembering louder than they lied. I didn't say Camille's name. I didn't need to, because the truth is, everyone already knew. They'd seen the comments. They'd heard the whispers. But now they were seeing me, not broken, not bitter, just rebuilt. After the panel, 3 women came up to me. One of them whispered, I thought I was the only one who ever felt deleted. That word stayed with me. Deleted, not erased, not forgotten. Deleted, as in removed deliberately. That's what Camille had done. She hadn't just replaced me, she tried to delete me, but I made sure she'd never press that key again. That night, I posted a photo of the empty panel stage. No caption, just silence. But in that silence, I knew she was watching. I knew she saw the applause, the reshared stories, the comment from a major agency account that read, we've been waiting for her. I knew she felt it, not the loss, but the irrelevance. Because that's what happens when you build a reputation on someone else's silence. Once that silence ends, you're just an echo with no origin. Camille sent me an email 2 days later. No subject, just 2 lines. You think you've won, but you'll always be the girl who couldn't handle reality. I didn't respond, not because I was afraid, because she was. That email, it was a crack, a tiny fracture in the glass fortress she'd spent a year polishing with stolen polish. I printed it, pinned it on my corkboard under a quote from an old professor of ours. Desperation looks like defiance when viewed from the outside. I went on with my life, took on new clients, built a mentorship circle for women who'd been manipulated, gaslit, or erased by people in their own industries. I didn't ask them for details. I just gave them one promise. You're not crazy. They just got good at calling your clarity a problem. The last time I heard Camille's name was from Nathan. We had coffee in the same park where we first met. He said she was applying for a new job under a slightly altered version of her name, trying to start over again. But this time, no one bit. The industry remembered. Screenshots, threads, quiet warnings from former clients. She wasn't blacklisted. She was empty listed. No one said no, they just never called back. That's what true silence does. It doesn't punish. It evaporates. Have you ever watched someone who built a life on your downfall realize they can't survive outside your shadow? Tell me in the comments. Because sometimes the only justice you need is knowing that when they try to stand on their own, they fall flat. Not because you push them, but because you're not there to hold them up anymore. Camille was never afraid of me breaking. She counted on it. She thought I'd unravel quietly, disappear, maybe lash out once, just enough to look unhinged, then fade away. She didn't think I'd rebuild. She didn't imagine I'd evolve. And she definitely didn't expect me to become the one thing she could never copy. original. After the panel, something shifted in me, not overnight, but slowly, deeper. People started reaching out, not because of what I'd lost, but because of what I'd survived and still built. One woman sent me a message. She worked at an ad agency Camille had once pitched to. Her message read, everything she said felt familiar, like déjà vu, but hollow. That's what a copy always feels like, familiar but empty. Camille had mimicked my tone, my phrasing, my warmth, but she missed the weight, the years of context, the parts you can't fake. You can steal someone's words. You can't steal the reason they speak them. I took that message and tucked it away, not for revenge, for proof. Proof that I wasn't just recovering, I was emerging. Nathan noticed too. You move differently now, he said during one of our check-ins. Not careful, intentional. That stuck with me. Not careful, intentional. Because careful is about fear. Intentional is about power. I wasn't hiding. I was aiming. My next move wasn't about Camille. It was about impact. I launched a project. Real. This time, not anonymous. A platform where women could submit anonymous testimonials about identity theft, career sabotage, professional gaslighting. I named it Echo Proof, because that's what we were becoming. Immune to echoes. Too real to be mistaken. I hosted one story per week, with visuals, with dignity, and people paid attention. It didn't go viral. It went deep. A university ethics course cited us in their curriculum. A nonprofit requested a private archive license. Camille couldn't have done that. Not because she wasn't capable, because it wasn't hers. Originality doesn't come from creativity. It comes from living through what no one else can survive as you. I didn't announce the site, but people found it. And more importantly, they felt it. One comment stayed with me. I thought I was alone. Now I know I'm just early. That's what being imitated used to feel like, being early. But now I wasn't just early. I was the only one who could tell this story right. Camille started posting again. Subtle jabs, vague tweets, carefully curated quotes. She talked about healing. She said she forgave people who tried to ruin her. She tried to wear my recovery like she once wore my skin. But you can't wear peace. You either earn it or you don't. One of her old clients reached out to me quietly, said he wanted to work together. He said, you were always the soul behind the brand. We see that now. We see that now. I didn't need to fight for validation. It had already arrived. Because the one thing Camille couldn't fake was consistency. My voice hadn't changed, only the volume. I took another step, published a long-form essay. Title, The Shape of a Self. It wasn't about her. It was about how a person puts themselves back together when their identity has been worn like a costume. It went live on a Monday. By Wednesday, it was being quoted on panels I didn't even attend. The comments weren't dramatic. They were personal. I didn't know there were words for this. I've been trying to say this for years. Thank you for giving language to what I lived through. And I knew. This wasn't just my story anymore. It was a map, one she couldn't read. Because to read it, you'd have to admit it's not about control. It's about truth. Camille didn't disappear. She just faded. No one blocked her. No one canceled her. She just stopped echoing. Because the space she tried to steal, it's filled now with something solid, uncopyable. And the woman she thought she replaced, she became the blueprint. Have you ever stopped chasing validation and realized you'd become the very thing others try to copy yet can never match? Tell me in the comments. Because sometimes becoming unforgettable has nothing to do with being loud. It has everything to do with being real. I didn't plan to confront Camille. Honestly, I thought I was done. She was fading, irrelevant, clinging to narratives that no longer held weight. But then I saw her, not online, in person. I was walking into a cafe on 3rd and Bellamy, the one with the mint green walls and too many ceiling plants. It was late morning, quiet, the kind of place I go when I need to think clearly. And there she was, at the corner table, smiling in a way that made my blood still. Not because she was thriving, because she was practicing. Across from her sat a woman I vaguely recognized from the industry, junior creative at a startup I once pitched to. And Camille? She was pitching, animated, strategic, manipulative. I stood there, hands still on the door, for 3 full seconds, watching the woman who'd gutted my life build herself a new one in front of my eyes, still smiling, still lying, and I realized she hadn't stopped. she was still doing it, to someone else. That was the moment I knew. This story wasn't over. I wasn't done. And neither was she. I waited, sat quietly in the back, hat low, face turned. I ordered a coffee. I didn't drink. And I watched Camille weave her next story. Her voice was lower than I remembered, calibrated, almost sweet. She used words I once taught her: client-centered, empathy first, transparent process. She made my vocabulary sound like fiction. I took out my phone, not to record, just to remember, because Camille thrived in vagueness. And this time, I'd make it precise. That night, I created a folder, titled it Reflection. Not for her, for me, for anyone watching. Because if Camille's whole trick was plausible denial, I was going to hand her the impossible kind, visible truth. Over the next week, I reached out to 3 women she'd worked with recently. I didn't accuse, didn't warn, just asked simple things. How was your experience working with Camille? Did you ever feel like her work sounded oddly familiar? Would you recognize her designs if someone else had done them first? Their replies? Hesitant, uneasy, grateful. One woman sent me a PDF, a pitch deck Camille claimed as her own. Slide 3, it had a quote I'd written into a 1-9 verbatim. Another sent an email thread, Camille dismissing a client's feedback by saying the original designer didn't understand modern UX standards. That original designer, me. I filed them all, labeled each with the client name, the stolen phrase, the timestamp. I didn't send it anywhere, not yet. I wasn't interested in destroying Camille. I was interested in making visible what she worked so hard to hide. Then came the final moment. I messaged her, directly, no games. Subject line: I know what you did. The email was simple. Camille, you know what you've taken. You know who you've hurt. And I know exactly how you did it. You laughed at me once. Do it again, Lila. She replied 20 minutes later. Are you seriously still obsessed with this? Move on. Everyone else has. The audacity, the venom, the cowardice. But I didn't reply. Instead, I posted one slide on Echo Proof, a screenshot of Camille's fake pitch deck next to my original from 2020. No names, no drama, just captioned. They say imitation is flattery. I say, it's theft when it's unpaid and uncredited. The post exploded. People started tagging each other. Designers from 3 firms messaged me. One even said, she sent this to our team last week. I knew it looked familiar. Camille couldn't deny it this time. Because this time, the evidence didn't whisper, it shouted. Camille went quiet, not just online, everywhere. She ghosted clients, deleted half her content. She even removed the phrase creative integrity from her LinkedIn bio. Because now she knew she couldn't sell what she stole anymore. Because I'd made the trail public. And a thief who can't operate in the shadows has nothing left to take. Have you ever called someone out not with rage, not with drama, but with calm truth they couldn't bury? Tell me in the comments. Because sometimes justice isn't about punishment. It's about clarity so loud they can't pretend it didn't happen. I was supposed to vanish. That was the plan, wasn't it? Camille thought if she ruined my credibility, stole my work, and stepped into the space I built brick by brick, I'd just disappear into nothing. That I'd be too humiliated to fight back. Too broken to trace the pieces. But the thing about stealing a life is, you don't know how to maintain it. Because a reputation isn't a costume. It's something that grows under pressure. It bleeds when people doubt you. It bends under deadlines, failure, and expectation. And Camille? She wasn't built for it. She didn't just steal my life. She inherited the weight that came with it. The first sign was small. A client I used to work with, a woman named Dana, tagged me in a story. Not directly, just a silent nod. She was talking about quiet professionals who never ask for credit but carry the project. And the font she used? My signature template. The one Camille stole. It wasn't shade. It was a warning. Camille saw it. Of course she did. Because within hours, she posted some elaborate monologue about being targeted by bitter energy and how some people can't handle your glow up. No names, but full of fear. It wasn't even anger. It was panic, disguised as confidence. People in the comments weren't buying it anymore. I didn't have to say a word, but the story was starting to shift. Then the cracks got wider. A client accused her of ghosting mid-project. Then another said she missed deadlines. Screenshots started leaking. Conflicting invoices. A copy-pasted proposal I had originally written 3 years ago resurfaced in a new pitch deck. she'd sent with the file name still bearing my initials. One thing about sloppy thieves, they never imagine they'll be audited. I didn't rush in. That would have made it personal. I stayed quiet, but I answered questions when asked. I showed receipts. I responded with dates, facts, calm. And more importantly, I never stooped to her language. Camille wanted a fight. I gave her documentation. When you've been erased once, you learn that truth isn't something you scream. It's something you carry. And when the moment comes, you simply lay it down and let it speak for itself. People started pulling away from her. She lost a retainer contract. Then too, one of the companies even reached out to me and asked, "Would you be open to consulting?" I said yes, not because I needed the work, but because I knew the project Camille failed was one I built from the ground up. She tried to wear it like armor, but armor forged from lies cracks the moment someone knocks. Camille tried to post her way out of it. Motivational quotes, old selfies, vague captions about reclaiming her energy. She even tried to pivot, rebrand herself as a wellness advocate. Started saying things like healing is my priority. But no one bought it. You can't rebrand when your foundation is fraud. I got one last message from her, not a threat, a plea. It said, "You've made your point. Can we please stop?" I stared at that message for a long time, not because I wanted revenge, but because I remembered the girl she made cry in HR, saying I was paranoid, the client she lied to, who cut TIs with me because she said I was unwell, the way she held the door shut on the apartment I paid for, calling me by my name like it belonged to her. So I didn't answer, because I wasn't trying to punish her. I was just finally telling the truth in a world that used to believe her lies. She made me look crazy. I made her look transparent. Have you ever had someone try to ruin your life and then watch them choke on the version of you they created? Tell me in the comments. Because eventually, no matter how much they spin the story, the lie runs out of breath. They say women are the first to help each other, but the truth is more complicated. When I was falling when Camille took my life and wore it like a fitted dress, some women watched. They watched me unravel. They watched her rise. And they said nothing. At first, I thought they were complicit, that they believed her, that they agreed. But now I know better. They weren't silent because they didn't care. They were silent because they recognized the pattern. They had lived it too. And survival teaches you to stay quiet when the fire is burning someone else. Because next time, it might be you. The first message came late one night. It was a DM. No profile photo. No name. Just 3 words. "I believe you." That was it. No details. No context. I stared at the message for 20 minutes. Then I cried. Not because I was sad. Because I realized I hadn't heard those words in almost a year. "I believe you." Not "are you sure?" Not "maybe she didn't mean it." Not "she seems so sweet." Just belief. That's when I knew this wasn't just my story. This was a language women speak in silence, in fragments, in careful confessions whispered in bathrooms, back seats, and burnt-out offices. More messages followed, some short, some pages long. A former colleague, a past intern, even someone Camille had mentored. They all told me the same thing. I saw what she was doing. I didn't say anything. I thought if I got close enough, she wouldn't do it to me. I felt like it was happening in slow motion, but no one else was blinking. They weren't cowards. They were survivors. And survivors know that sometimes the smartest thing you can do is go still until the danger passes. Except with Camille, it never did. Because she didn't just take space. She vacuumed it. She made rooms smaller, made other women feel like maybe they were imagining things. And by the time the truth caught up, we were all alone in different corners of the same burnt house. One woman sent me a recording. She had worked with Camille at another firm. The clip was from a team call. Camille was presenting confident, polished, glowing, until someone interrupted. A soft voice asked, "Did you build this strategy yourself?" Camille hesitated, just for a second. And in that second, you could hear the script break. She said, "It's a combination of ideas. A lot of voices contributed. The woman who sent it to me wrote, that voice, that was me. I was the strategist." She repackaged my work and put her name on it. Another message came in an hour later. She did it to me too. And I stayed quiet, because I thought I was the only one. They started forming a map, not physically, emotionally. The women who watched me burn, they were now stepping forward, not to fight, to witness. And that was worse for Camille than any revenge I could have scripted. Because now, when someone Googled her name, they didn't find drama. They found a pattern, a collection of inconsistencies, deleted comments, removed tags, stories that vanished when asked too many questions. She didn't just lose credibility. She lost the luxury of being misunderstood. Because the most dangerous thing a manipulator can face is a united memory. I held a private Zoom room one night. I didn't publicize it, just sent the link to 7 women who'd reached out. No recording, no agenda, just a space. We didn't say Camille's name. We didn't need to. We talked about what it feels like to watch someone rewrite your life in front of your colleagues, your boss, your friends, and have no one stop them. One woman cried, another couldn't turn on her camera. But we stayed, for 2 hours, just stayed. And at the end, I said something I hadn't let myself believe until then. She didn't win. She just counted on us not talking. And that was her biggest mistake. I got another letter. This one handwritten, folded in 3, no return address. Inside was one line. I watched her lie about you. I said nothing. I'm sorry. No name, just ink. And you know what? It was enough. Because not every apology needs a face. Sometimes the act of stepping out of silence is the apology. And for women like us, it's a revolution. Camille tried to reclaim her image, posted a photo with a quote about rebuilding, said she was done with drama, that she was moving on, but no one responded. Because we weren't mad anymore. We were aware. And once awareness spreads, it can't be silenced. Have you ever had someone take everything from you while others just watched? And then one day, those same people quietly hand you the matches and say, I see it now. I believe you. Tell me in the comments. Because maybe the women who watched you burn aren't cowards. Maybe they were waiting for the moment when your fire became a signal and not a warning. I stopped talking about Camille long before she stopped talking about me. That's the trick with people like her. They thrive in chaos, need the feud, crave the reaction. But silence, real, heavy, strategic silence, it's their worst nightmare. So I gave it to her, not as surrender but as precision. I let her think she won, because when someone believes the war is over, they stop preparing for the counterattack. And Camille? She had no idea how much she'd already lost. It wasn't about reputation anymore, or clients, or even revenge. It was about erosion. I wasn't breaking her. She was unraveling herself, one thread at a time. And all I had to do was wait. The first unraveling happened quietly. I got a call from a woman who had hired Camille recently. She sounded nervous. I don't want to cause trouble, she said. Something feels off. I didn't lead her. I didn't bait her. I just asked one question. What did she promise you? She paused, then said, she said she built her career from the ground up, that she survived a friend who tried to destroy her, that she's self-made. I didn't laugh, but I did smile, because the version of me Camille had crafted for her new narrative, it was working against her now. She'd made me into a villain, and villains eventually start talking. I didn't say anything major. I just sent the woman a link, a single article, my essay, The Shape of a Self. The woman read it, then replied with 4 words. This explains so much. That was it. Another thread pulled. The next week, a designer from the Midwest reached out. She'd found Camille's profile on a freelance site and noticed the portfolio seemed familiar. Didn't you design that identity for Echo Trust? She asked. Yes, I did. Camille had recycled one of my old brand kits, changed the color palette, kept the structure, forgot to erase my embedded signature in the CVG file. She was getting sloppy again. Desperate people always do. I didn't confront her. I just updated my own site, added a design integrity page, detailed which past works were mine, which ones had been lifted, and how to verify originality through hidden trace signatures. I named no names, but designers knew. Designers always know. I started getting messages. Thank you for saying what we've all wanted to say. This helped me call out a client who tried to pass off copied work. You're building more than a career. You're setting a standard. I wasn't trying to become a movement. I was just done being disposable. And Camille? She was now a cautionary tale. She posted less, then stopped altogether. Then one afternoon I saw it. Her website was down. 404. Nothing remained but a broken favicon. I didn't gloat. I didn't even screenshot it. Because I knew, the real win isn't watching someone fall. It's no longer needing to care that they did. People kept asking me why I never went public. never outed her directly, never took legal action. And I'll tell you what I told them: when someone tries to destroy you by impersonating your life, the worst thing you can do is respond like it's a fight. Because it's not, it's a test of endurance, of clarity, of identity. And I passed. Because I remembered something Camille never learned: if you have to steal someone's voice to be heard, you were never saying anything real to begin with. The day I truly knew it was over, I got a message from an old mutual friend. We hadn't spoken in nearly 2 years. She wrote, "I owe you an apology." I believed her. I turned away from you. And now I see it. All of it. I'm sorry. I didn't say it's okay, because it wasn't. But I said this: you weren't the only one, because she wasn't. Camille's power wasn't in being convincing. It was in knowing how to exploit timing, doubt, silence. But time catches everything. And by the time the truth surfaced, I wasn't angry anymore. I was too busy building a life she could never copy. I'd moved cities again, started a small agency of my own, hired 3 women whose stories echoed mine. We don't just work, we document, we verify, we defend each other's credits like blood. Because once you've been erased, you learn how to hold the pen tighter. We're not interested in revenge, we're interested in memory. And Camille? She's just a fading shadow now. One more name in a drawer labeled unrepeatable mistakes. Have you ever let someone think they won just long enough for them to drop their own mask? Tell me in the comments. Because sometimes the cleanest justice is the one they never see coming. There's something unsettling about watching a liar lose track of their own lie. At first, it's calculated, strategic. They rehearse the story, tweak it, refine it, perfect it until even they believe it. But if you watch long enough, you start to notice the cracks, the pauses, the inconsistency, the glitch in their performance when reality knocks on the door they thought they locked. That's what started happening to Camille. She didn't just lose her image, she lost herself inside it. And I watched every second of it, not with vengeance, with clarity. Because the final stage of someone who built a life on fiction is forgetting the script. And she was off book now. I first noticed it in a podcast she guested on. It wasn't about design. It was some vague female empowerment platform she found. She spoke in cliches. I believe in reinvention. My story is still being written. Sometimes people just can't handle your transformation. But the host asked one question she wasn't ready for. What's been your greatest professional lesson so far? Camille paused. Too long. Then she said, that I need to trust my instincts. I used to give too much. Now I protect my peace. And I swear to you, she said it like she believed it. But I knew the truth. She wasn't protecting peace. She was avoiding consequences. Because even now, in the rubble of her career, Camille didn't feel guilt. She felt exposure. That's what narcissists confuse with betrayal, being seen too clearly. She still believed she had a version of the truth. But when your truth requires the deletion of someone else's identity, it's not truth, it's theater. Camille tried to stay relevant. She launched a Substack, 5 posts, all of them vague monologues about learning to breathe again and stepping into light. She deleted them after a week. She posted a selfie with an old quote she once stole from my notebook. Softness is not weakness, it's direction. Someone commented, "Didn't you copy this from another designer?" She replied, "You don't know the whole story. But here's the thing. By now, everyone did." The story wasn't just mine anymore. It had grown roots, spread. It lived in Slack messages, old email threads, agency whispers, Google Drive archives, DMs, panel references, portfolio credits. Everywhere Camille tried to scrub me out, I had already reappeared. And she was now choking on the dust of her own edits. I saw her once, accidentally, at a conference I wasn't speaking at, just attending. She was across the room, standing alone by the coffee bar. No entourage, no invitations to panels, just silence. She didn't see me, but I saw her eyes, searching, scanning, trying to locate someone who would remember her as the version she once performed. But there were none left. The performance had ended, and the room had moved on. That's when I realized Camille wasn't a villain. She was a void. She entered lives, found the gaps, filled them with borrowed strength, and called it her own. But you can only live on borrowed light for so long. Eventually, you burn out. She burned bright for a moment. But I became a constellation. Because while she was busy polishing her spotlight, I was mapping out stars. One of the last people Camille ever worked with sent me a message. It was one line. "She talked so much about you, but the way she said your name always felt hollow. That's what scared her the most. Not that I existed, but that I still existed without her. She thought I'd stay small. She thought I'd chase her. She thought she could make me the villain of her story. But what she never understood, I wasn't in her story. She was in mine, briefly, and only as a warning. Have you ever watched someone get so lost in their lie that they started performing it for no one? Tell me in the comments. Because the most painful thing for a liar is not being caught, it's being irrelevant. People think the final step is revenge, that after someone ruins your life, the real closure isn't taking theirs apart. But they're wrong. The real closure is walking into a room with your name on the door not because someone gave it back to you, but because you rebuilt it with your own hands. The truth is, I didn't want to be famous. I didn't want to be followed, reposted, vindicated. I wanted to be real again, to myself. Because when someone steals your identity, they don't just take your name, they take your reflection. They take the part of you that recognizes yourself. And it took me a long time to look in the mirror without seeing Camille's fingerprints on my skin. But today, I don't see her at all. It started small. I changed my voicemail. For months, it had been blank, a silent reminder of how unsafe I felt in my own voice. Now it said clearly, "You've reached Lila Monroe. Leave a message." Just a name. But it echoed louder than any confrontation ever could. Then came the mail. For a year, I had everything sent to a P.O. box. I didn't want to risk seeing envelopes addressed to the woman who took everything. But now, there's a mailbox in front of my new place. And the name on it? Mine. And only mine. I went back to the firm once. The one where Camille first started her imitation act. Not for vengeance. Not to prove anything. Just to sit in the lobby. To breathe the same air I once walked through in fear. I brought a book. Waited 30 minutes. Made eye contact with no one. Then I left. It wasn't about them. It was about me. Because power isn't always what you say. Sometimes it's what you no longer need to explain. I did one last thing. One final action to close the loop. I opened a newsletter. Not for followers. Not for drama. Just for women like me. The tagline read, "For anyone who's ever been erased and decided to rewrite themselves instead." In the first issue, I wrote, "Your story doesn't need to be believed to be true. Your identity doesn't need to be defended to be real. And your name? It doesn't need to be famous. It just needs to be yours." Within a week, 3,000 people subscribed. Within a month, 10,000. And not once did I mention Camille. Because healing isn't about proving they were wrong. It's about no longer needing them to be part of your sentence. I got a package last week. No return label. Inside was a notebook. Handmade. Worn leather. Embossed on the cover was my name, Lila Monroe. No note. Just that. I don't know who sent it. Maybe one of the women I helped. Maybe someone I'll never meet. But I held it for a long time. And I thought, she tried to erase me. Now my name is printed in leather. And that was enough. I've been asked what I'd say to Camille if I ever saw her again. My answer? Nothing. Not because I'm above her, but because I'm finally free from her. My story doesn't end with her. It ends with me, writing again, designing again, laughing again, living with a name that feels soft and strong at the same time. And that's all I ever wanted. Have you ever rebuilt yourself from memory, one forgotten piece at a time, until your name no longer felt like a question? Tell me in the comments. Because maybe the greatest revenge is being whole, quietly, fully, and forever.